When a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier crosses the equator, something absolutely wild happens on deck. Sailors get doused in rotten food, crawl through tubes filled with sewage, and face a mock court led by a chief dressed as King Neptune. This isn't punishment, it's tradition. On these floating cities, where 5,000 people live together for months, the customs are as extreme as the missions. From launching boots off catapults to holding barbecues on the flight deck while sailing through combat zones, carrier life operates by rules you won't find in any manual. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about life at sea. Introduction. U.S. aircraft carriers are technological marvels. These nuclear-powered fortresses stretch over 1,100 feet and carry up to 75 aircraft. But beyond the Fa-18 Super Hornets and the billion-dollar technology, there's something else happening aboard these ships. The sailors who keep them running have developed traditions so bizarre, so unexpected, that most civilians have no idea they exist. These aren't just random activities. Every tradition serves a purpose: building brotherhood, maintaining morale, or marking significant moments during deployments that can last 9 months or more. When you're surrounded by gray steel walls and the ocean stretches endlessly in every direction, these rituals become the heartbeat of carrier life. If you've ever served or know someone who has, type proud in the comments below. Let's honor those who keep our carriers running. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the most shocking, unusual, and downright crazy things that happen on America's aircraft carriers. Some of these traditions date back centuries. Others were born from the unique challenges of modern naval warfare. All of them reveal the incredible spirit of the men and women who serve. The Shellback ceremony, crossing the line. The single most infamous tradition aboard any Navy ship is the Shellback ceremony. When a carrier crosses the equator, sailors who've never done it before, called polywogs, face an initiation that would make basic training look tame. Here's how it works. The crossing happens during deployment, often when the carrier is headed to the Indo-Pacific or around South America. Days before the actual equator crossing, veteran sailors who've already earned the title of Shellback begin preparing. They design elaborate costumes, brew disgusting concoctions, and plan a series of challenges that polywogs must endure. When the day arrives, a senior chief transforms into King Neptune. Complete with a flowing robe, white beard, crown, and trident, he presides over a royal court. His queen, typically another sailor in an equally ridiculous costume, sits beside him. Together, they oversee the day's proceedings. Polywogs are gathered on the flight deck or hangar bay. They're subjected to mock trials where they face absurd charges, everything from disrespecting the ocean to not properly honoring Neptune's domain. The punishments are messy. Sailors crawl on their bellies across the deck while being sprayed with salt water from fire hoses. They swim through tubes filled with rotting food waste that the galley has been saving for days. The stench alone is enough to make anyone gag. One particularly memorable challenge involves the royal baby, the biggest, hairiest sailor on the ship, his belly covered in grease. Polywogs must crawl up to him and have their faces rubbed in his stomach. It's disgusting, humiliating, and absolutely unforgettable. But here's the thing. It's all in good fun. When the ordeal ends, polywogs receive official certificates declaring them shellbacks. They've joined an exclusive club that spans generations of sailors. The tradition bonds the crew and marks a significant moment in their naval careers. For the rest of their lives, they'll remember the day they crossed the line. There are even special categories. If you cross at the international date line, you become a golden shellback. Cross at the prime meridian, and you're an emerald shellback. These distinctions carry serious bragging rights in the Navy. Steel beach picnics. Bubbock at sea. Imagine grilling steaks and playing volleyball while sailing through the Persian Gulf. That's exactly what happens during Steel Beach picnic days. Deployments last months. The crew works exhausting shifts in cramped conditions with minimal personal space. Stress builds. Morale can drop. The Navy's solution? Turn the flight deck into a beach party. During Steel Beach days, flight operations pause. Grills are brought up from the galley. The smell of burgers, hot dogs, and steaks fills the air. Music blasts from speakers. Sailors break out volleyballs, footballs, and even set up skeet shooting stations off the side of the ship. On carriers, the scene is spectacular. The massive flight deck becomes a recreation area. Some sailors sunbathe, others play games. The crew gets a rare chance to relax and forget, even briefly, that they're thousands of miles from home. Submarines celebrate differently. Since deck space is limited, submariners might hit golf balls into the ocean, fish with lawn chairs on the hull, or hold diving contests. It's their version of a beach day when there's no actual beach in sight. These events aren't just about fun. They're critical for mental health. Studies show that providing breaks and recreational activities during high-stress deployments significantly reduces anxiety and depression. Steel Beach Days give sailors something to look forward to, a light at the end of the tunnel during the grind. The Navy understands that carriers aren't just war machines. They're floating communities. When you cram 5,000 people into a confined space for 9 months, you need to give them outlets. Steel Beach traditions prove that even in the most serious military operations, there's room for humanity. Launching the shooter's boots. When a catapult officer, known as a shooter, retires from the Navy, something unique happens. They launch their flight deck boots off the catapult. The shooter has one of the most critical jobs on the carrier. They're responsible for launching aircraft off the deck using steam-powered or electromagnetic catapults. Every launch requires precise timing, coordination, and judgment. A mistake could cost lives or destroy multi-million-dollar jets. When a shooter's career ends, the crew gathers on the flight deck for a final ceremony. The retiring officer goes through the entire launch sequence one last time, but instead of an aircraft, it's their worn-out boots sitting on the catapult. The shooter gives the traditional salute. The catapult crew swings their fingers in the air, signaling readiness. Then, with a blast of steam, the boots rocket off the deck and disappear into the ocean. It's emotional, symbolic, and deeply meaningful. One carrier veteran recalls bringing his 10-year-old son aboard during a family cruise day to watch the ceremony. The boy mimicked his father's every move. The salute, the hand signals, the tension before launch. That memory captured the essence of carrier life, tradition passed down through generations, moments that define careers, and the unique bond formed by those who serve. Before we continue, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing but helps us bring more stories like this. Let's keep honoring our military together. Flight deck spellouts. Messages from the sea. Here's something most people never see. When carriers enter foreign ports or commemorate special occasions, the entire crew forms words and patterns on the flight deck. It started decades ago when a captain realized he had a massive floating parade ground and thousands of sailors. Why not create aerial photographs that would capture attention? The first spellouts were simple, ship names or basic greetings. Over time, they evolved into elaborate displays. Sailors line up in precise formations spelling messages in English or foreign languages. When George Washington arrived in Japan, the crew formed Japanese characters spelling Hajime Mashite, nice to meet you. Intrepid spelled Buon Natal to wish Italians Merry Christmas while visiting Naples. These aren't casual photo ops. They require coordination of thousands of people, precise spacing, and aircraft positioned strategically to enhance the visual impact. Photographers launch from helicopters or jets to capture the image from above. The tradition reveals something powerful: pride. Every sailor standing on that deck is part of something bigger. They're representing not just their ship, but the entire United States Navy. These spellouts send messages of goodwill, commemoration, and patriotism. Some carriers have sent messages to children fighting cancer. Others honored fallen comrades. A few spelled out holiday greetings to families back home. Each photograph became a piece of naval history, a testament to the unity and spirit of carrier crews. Promotion rituals. Earning your rank the hard way. Getting promoted in the Navy is a big deal, but on carriers, the celebration can get wild. When a sailor advances from seaman to petty officer, the tradition begins. After the promotion party, and there's always drinking involved, the newly promoted sailor often wakes up in unexpected places. One common prank involves the crash barn at naval air stations. The promotee wakes up tied to a telephone pole, covered head to toe in axle grease. That industrial grease is notoriously difficult to remove. It takes weeks for the smell to completely fade. Squadron sailors face different treatment. Some wake up tied to chairs dangling 20 or 30 feet above the hangar deck. The chair swings gently while the rest of the crew watches and laughs. These rituals sound harsh, but they're rooted in brotherhood. The message is clear. You've earned this rank, but don't forget where you came from. Stay humble. Remember your shipmates. The grease and ropes are uncomfortable, sure, but they create stories that last a lifetime. Another tradition involves hosing down sailors on their last day before transferring to new duty stations. Friends wrestle the departing sailor outside, pin them down, and blast them with water from fire hoses or crash truck hoses. It's messy, chaotic, and a perfect send-off. These moments bond crews together. Years later, veterans remember not the routine days, but these crazy traditions that marked milestones in their careers. Rope yarn Sundays, the early day off. Back in the 1970s, Master Chief Petty Officer Ken Bendy introduced a tradition called Rope Yarn Sundays to his department. Usually held on Wednesday afternoons, it gave sailors an unexpected early day off. The term comes from old naval practice. Sailors aboard wooden ships would spend Sundays twisting rope yarn light work compared to their normal duties. Over time, rope yarn became slang for any easy day or time off. Master Chief Bendy understood something crucial. Morale matters. Carrier life is relentless. Sailors work 12-hour shifts, sometimes longer during flight operations. They sleep in cramped berthing compartments with 60 other people. Privacy doesn't exist. Days blur together in a monotonous cycle. By giving his sailors unexpected time off, Bendy wasn't just being nice. He was instilling tradition, teaching them that the Navy respects their service and understands their sacrifices. Those Wednesday afternoons became legendary in his department. Modern carriers continue similar practices, though they might not call them rope yarn Sundays. Commanders know that small gestures, movie nights, extra rack time, special meals go a long way in maintaining crew readiness and mental health. The ice cream obsession. When the Navy banned alcohol aboard ships in 1914, sailors needed a new morale booster. They found it in ice cream. During World War II, the Navy commissioned a floating ice cream barge worth over $1 million. Its sole purpose was delivering frozen treats to deployed sailors. Carriers stockpiled ice cream in massive quantities. Even today, modern carriers maintain this tradition. The ship's ice cream stations operate continuously. After a brutal 12-hour shift in the engine room or on the flight deck, sailors line up for soft serve. It's a small comfort, but incredibly meaningful. Submariners are especially passionate about ice cream. Since submarines can't carry alcohol either, ice cream becomes the ultimate luxury. Some subs even hold ice cream eating contests during special occasions. This tradition highlights the Navy's understanding of human needs. Yes, carriers are weapons platforms capable of projecting power anywhere in the world. But they're also home to thousands of young men and women who miss their families, who work themselves to exhaustion, who need moments of simple joy. A scoop of ice cream might seem trivial to outsiders. To a sailor 7 months into deployment, it's everything. Manning the rails, the ultimate honor. When carriers enter port, especially foreign ports, sailors perform a ceremony called manning the rails. The entire crew lines up along the edges of the flight deck and the ship's sides, standing at attention in their dress uniforms. This tradition dates back centuries to the age of sail. Sailors would climb the masts and position themselves along the spars to render honors. It also demonstrated peaceful intent. If your crew is manning the rails, they can't be manning the guns. Today's version is equally impressive. Thousands of sailors in crisp white uniforms form perfect lines along the carrier's perimeter. As the ship glides into port, they stand motionless, a powerful symbol of discipline and respect. Manning the rails happens during significant events, entering home port after deployment, visiting allied nations, commemorating fallen comrades, or honoring dignitaries visiting the ship. For the sailors standing there, it's exhausting. They maintain their positions for extended periods. often in extreme heat or cold. But they do it proudly because they understand the symbolism. They're representing something bigger than themselves. Living below deck, the unseen reality. Not all carrier traditions involve ceremonies or celebrations. Some simply reflect the challenging reality of life aboard these ships. A sailor working below deck might go weeks without seeing sunlight. The berthing compartments are incredibly cramped, 60 people sharing a space smaller than most living rooms, sleeping in racks stacked 3 high. Personal space is measured in cubic feet. Each sailor gets a small storage bin and an upright locker. That's it. Everything else, clothes, personal items, letters from home, must fit into that tiny space. The bathroom situation is equally challenging. 60 people share a handful of toilets, sinks, and showers. Privacy is a luxury that doesn't exist. Throughout the ship, passageways are narrow. Sailors constantly squeeze past each other, climbing nearly vertical ladders between decks. New crew members spend their first weeks bruised and banged up, learning to navigate the labyrinth. Despite these conditions, sailors adapt. They create informal traditions, rack curtains decorated with photos from home, communal TV time in the small lounge areas, elaborate pranks involving shaving cream balloons released into sleeping shipmates' racks. These weren't sanctioned traditions, but they became just as important. They helped sailors cope with the claustrophobia, the lack of privacy, and the endless gray walls. The modern carrier, tradition meets technology. Today's carriers blend cutting-edge technology with centuries-old tradition. The newest Gerald R. Ford-class carriers use electromagnetic catapults instead of steam. They carry F-35C stealth fighters and advanced drones. Satellite communications allow sailors to video chat with families back home. But the traditions remain. New sailors still go through Shellback ceremonies. Steel Beach picnics still happen. Spellouts still commemorate special occasions. This balance is intentional. The Navy recognizes that technology alone doesn't make an effective fighting force. You need cohesion, morale, and shared identity. Traditions create that foundation. When a 19-year-old sailor from Kansas stands on the flight deck during a spelling out a message to the world, they're connected to every sailor who served before them. When they endure the Shellback ceremony, they join a brotherhood spanning centuries. These traditions aren't about hazing or pranks for their own sake. They're about transforming individuals into a unified crew capable of operating the most complex warships ever built. Conclusion. Life aboard a U.S. aircraft carrier is nothing like civilian life. The traditions, from Neptune's court to catapult boot launches, might seem crazy to outsiders. But to the sailors who serve, they're essential. These rituals mark milestones, build unbreakable bonds, and provide relief during grueling deployments. They honor the past while preparing crews for an uncertain future. They transform a floating metal city into a home. Our military personnel serve in ways most civilians never fully understand. They sacrifice comfort, privacy, and months away from loved ones. The traditions they maintain remind us that behind every technological marvel, behind every successful mission, are real people with an incredible spirit. If this opened your eyes to carrier life, hit that like button and subscribe. Share this video with anyone who appreciates our military's dedication. Thanks for watching, and never forget those who serve.